The biggest problem we have is we don't pay enough to incentivize people to come work. There are counties and states around us that pay veteran teachers much more than we do. We have so many barriers for teachers who have credentials that come from out of state, and they have to jump through incredible hoops to try to get on board. We don't have them staffed, but we have people that are waiting to try to get through HR because their license is from out of state. They don't have the license that the North Carolina requires. We're spending a lot of time lobbying the legislature to get rid of some of the barriers and to allow us to pay our teachers more. We have retired teachers that are sitting home that have been with us for years, that have all the credentials and all the skills we need, but the state won't let them come back to work without incurring some financial barriers that they don't really, that's not fair. And they want to come back, but so we're lobbying, we're lobbying the state continually, bombarding. We have a fantastic cadre of local legislators who are very supportive of our concerns and are constantly, championing the causes that we are trying to put into place to allow us to hire people that are here in town who want to come back to us, but have all these barriers, financial barriers and licensure barriers. We're running into teachers that retired. They knew they weren't going to come back because of the financial barriers didn't make it worth their while, so they let their licenses expire. So now they've got two barriers. They've got a financial barrier and then they've got a license barrier. So we're struggling with the infrastructure that's preventing us from getting the people that we know are surrounding us that would love to help us, but we can't make it worth their while. Well, I'm certain we have schools that have culture issues, and it's a hangover from past administrations. We're right now in transition with our interim superintendent, and we'll be starting a superintendent search shortly but we need some stability. And once we get stability within our administration, then we will be able to focus more targetedly on the stability and make sure we have staff that have tuned into a new culture for our students, for our staff, and all of our support system. Well, someone asked me that on paper, and so I had the time to sit down and go back through the superintendent changes just since I've been on the board, and I've been on the board for 9 years. More than half of our transition superintendents leaving left on their accord. So, we have to deal with what happens. When things happen and they find this is no longer the place for them, we have to accept that. This last transition that we are going through, or just got the interim because that was a different situation, and I cannot say that wasn't the board's fault, because we hired someone who we felt had credentials that we needed, that filled the spots that the prior superintendents had issues with. And we felt that at the time, this was pre-COVID when we hired him, that he could learn. He was going through intensive training on principalship. We had good staff to support him, and then COVID hit. And the pressures just escalated. Nobody knew how to deal with that. Everybody was fumbling, and he fumbled too. And it was to the point that when we were coming out of COVID, it was just so traumatic that didn't feel like we were going to be able to, recover quickly enough, because we needed to rebound, and we needed to rebound fast. And he didn't have the skill set that we needed at that time to lead the charge for that, that rebound, which is why we had to let him go. But as far as I'm concerned, that was our fault. Don't discount the need for expertise, and experience. This is a large school system. It is multifaceted, and we cannot discount the fact that we need somebody that knows how to guide a ship. You just can't rely on training to make up for that. How large is your system, and what's the diversity? What have you done? What have you done that you can point to that cured the problems that we are having? We're a majority school system. We have students that come to us with issues that prevent them from being able to learn. Point to me, what have you done to address these issues, to turn around students? It's not about turning around the school. You can't turn around the school until you turn around the students. And so what have you done to address the issues that our children come to that are barriers to their learning in your previous experience? Those are the kinds of issues. People that can show me that they can address and lead a system and have the expertise to identify people who are not up to snuff in that particular area, and have the courage to move them aside and put somebody in that spot that can do it. We can't just let somebody be the leader of a facility for 4 or 5 years and the school remains having not achieved growth. And in my opinion, you're not going to get accomplishment, you're not going to get 3s and 4s in achievement until you get double-digit growth. You've got to exceed growth year over year over year in order to bring the students up to speed so they can learn. And that's when they will make those 4s and 5s. That we are putting the pedal to the metal. Because as I said, you're not going to get those scores up until you bring the children up to grade level. And then they can learn, then they have the ability and the background to learn what they're supposed to be learning at that grade and absorb it. We're heavily relying on our MTSS initiative, because that's where we catch those students who are struggling. They're not struggling, and the struggle isn't about grades and learning. The struggle is about whether or not, did I get a meal? Was there a big fight in the house last night? Did my best friend get arrested or even hurt because of the neighborhood violence? Or is there any bullying in the school that's not being addressed? We've got more bullying in school than is acceptable. And we've got to address it. And that's one of the things that is a continual problem. We may have gotten the guns out of the school, but we haven't gotten the bullying out yet. And I'm not satisfied that the school administrations are giving it the weight and the attention that it deserves. We see a lot of issues where the victim is being punished just as much as the aggressor. That's not fair. And you can't expect a child to sit there like this while somebody's beating on them. That's not fair. That's not a realistic expectation. But when you put your arms up and you push back, then you are treated as sometimes more than the person who was beating on you. And so we've got to turn that around and make that whole process more. De-escalate the in-school violence and do some restorative justice, especially for the aggressor. We find out, well, what is it that's making this child pick on somebody else? What's going on in their lives? Hurt people, and hurt children, other children. And so if this child is being a repeated aggressor, or even if it's just one person, that's one person too many. We need to find out what is in this child's life that is causing that. If I were a parent, I'd probably be right there in the train looking for something better for my children. We CMS has a lot of issues. CMS has a lot of good stuff going on. I had 2 grandchildren that were in California high schools, and they weren't failing. They just weren't offering my grandchildren what they needed, and I had their family move them here. And they graduated from CMS schools and are in college. So we've got good stuff going on, but the students that are failing, we haven't, that MTSS system for us is not pulling its weight. It's doing, we need, well, and part of the reason is we don't have the counselors, social workers, and psychologists necessary to fully staff the schools. To, you know, you can't expect a counselor that is supposed to say, and I don't remember the exact statistics, but they have, each one of those groups have a caseload. And the national average for how many students a caseload should be for, and expect that person to handle and handle effectively, we don't even get close. If the caseload for a social worker is 75, our social workers are probably having 300 and 400 students. So we haven't staffed that. Every time we put that in our budget, we don't get back the amount of money we've asked for just to fund that. We can't fund it with the ESSER and all the other one-time things, because once that money only lasts till 2024. Once that happens, we can't say, okay, well, we don't have any more money, you can go home now, because the problem will still be there. We need more money, and we need funding that is not temporary, so that we can get the people in the schools. We have partners that are working with us diligently. We have I believe it's Atrium, funded by, it's either Bank of America or Wacom. Bank of America, okay, I keep getting those two, who are funding a pilot program where health issues are not going to be a problem for our students anymore. If you've got, because they're losing time in the classroom, you can't expect them to progress if they've got 10 and 20 and 30 missed days in the classroom. So we're trying to resolve the health issues so that they can get back to class. You know, if you've got a fever, you go tell the nurse, she'll plug you in with the doctor, he'll prescribe something, get you medicated, so you can go back to class and your parents don't have to come get you and take you to the doctor. So we've got a lot of things that are coming on board. This is a pilot that's coming on board this year. So, you know, but that MTSS has got to be more effective in helping the students get rid of the barriers so they can get to class, stay in class, and pay attention, and so that they can learn.